Hey everyone, I'm Rod Roddenberry, and you're listening to Trek FM.
Hello and welcome to Stage 9, Trek FM show about the people who make Star Trek. I'm Mike.
I'm John.
And today we've got quite a bit of news about Star Trek Discovery for you. I don't know where to start, but let's start with Craig Sweeney. Craig Sweeney has joined the writing staff of Star Trek Discovery as a writer-producer. For those people who are not familiar, he is the creator, essentially, of the Limitless television series, which came on a few years back. I guess developer would be the technical term. And prior to that, he had worked on a lot of shows, including Elementary, Medium, Dr. Vegas, and the 4400. I mean, there seems to be, I don't know, just looking at it, it looks like Berg and Harberts are bringing in a lot of people to help out with the writing. There's Akiva Goldsman, obviously, who's come on. We've got Craig Sweeney now, and I'm 99.9% positive that there's 3 other people who have joined the staff, but I can't confirm it, so whatever. And you know, if you look at the sort of like relationships or whatever, you know, Goldsman obviously has the Kurtzman connection with Fringe, and Sweeney was the developer on Limitless, which was produced by Alex Kurtzman, and you know, CBS obviously, you know, there's the whole thing there. He also worked on Elementary, which was a CBS show, and everything. So it all makes sense why Sweeney would be on board, and I think a lot of people are happy about this. They're excited about Sweeney's, addition to Discovery, because when Kurtzman was first announced as the producer, and you know, people were seeing that, they were like, "Oh, Alex Kurtzman, he's producing that new show Limitless. That show's really good. I hope he brings on the people who are making Limitless to make Discovery." And at the time, Limitless was in, you know, full swing or whatever, and it's like, well, that's not happening. But now that Limitless has been canceled, you know, even though a lot of people like it, a whole bunch.
Yeah, it got a very positive reception. I haven't watched a single episode of it, but it got a pretty positive. And unless I'm mistaken, it's the one that's adapted from the Bradley Cooper vehicle.
Yeah,
right?
And it's actually...
he actually appears in the show, right?
Yeah, it's actually a sequel to the movie, you know?
Oh, so it's not like MASH where they just reinvented it for television.
No.
This actually is a connected universe, essentially.
Yeah, like in the movie, which is a pretty good movie, by the way, Bradley Cooper is, you know, like a nobody, whatever, who takes this drug, which basically makes him super smart, and through the use of his increased brain power, he essentially becomes like a senator or something like that, you know, with eyes on the presidency or whatever, and, you know, that's kind of, I'm sorry, spoilers for Limitless, the movie. That's kind of how the movie ends. So in Limitless, the TV show, you see things on the news and stuff like that, like, oh, Senator Bradley Cooper is off doing his thing, right? But then the show is about another guy. So it's kind of like Highlander, you know?
Ah, yes, but hopefully better.
Than the show or the movie?
The show.
Okay, I never really watched the show. I mean, I saw like bits and pieces of like every single episode, but
I gave it a couple of tries back in the day.
I don't know. I have a fondness for that show, I think, more than anything because of the theme song, Princess of the Universe.
Well, come on, you know, a Queen theme song, but I'm so old school that it would have taken pretty much an act of God for me to accept anything besides the first Highlander movie as legitimate. Like, I'm serious. That's how entrenched I am with everything with that.
You know, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but Highlander Endgame, that movie is where it's at.
No, it is not.
That movie is where it's at.
It is not. It is not.
And by the way,
a false statement.
The director of Highlander Endgame, Douglas Ernie-Okoski, he was like I think he was the producing director on Limitless the TV show. So there you go.
Well, some people do better in one medium than they do in another. Because I'll tell you what, that Highlander Endgame is a pretty terrible movie, Mike.
Donnie Yen, I think his first English language movie.
Good for him. That's wonderful. He's
I
a
don't
good
know.
guy and a good actor.
See, you've got to watch the assembly cut that they pulled off of the Avid and
I
stuck on
have.
the DVD. That's the
Yeah.
way to go. That's the way to go. You know, back when that movie came out, like Douglas Ernieokoski was like hanging out on like Highlander message boards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I emailed him and I'm like, I really like your movie. I know everyone else hates it, but I really like your movie. And he emailed me back and he's like, thanks, I appreciate that. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. There's like literally like 5 versions of the movie on the DVD. Which one should I watch? And he's like, I don't know because I haven't seen any of them.
There you go.
Anyway, it's like
Anyway.
Limitless is like that in that, there is another guy who is basically going on the same type of journey, but it's not Bradley Cooper, but Bradley Cooper is there in sort of a mentor role. He shows up occasionally. He's in the pilot, and I watched the pilot, which Sweeney wrote, and I liked it a lot. It was in a lot of ways better than the movie. I felt like it kind of captured the tone which it should have better than the movie did, and I'm curious to see where it goes. I want to watch the rest of it. It's on Netflix for those people who are looking for it. But because of that, I think that's got a lot of people excited about Sweeney coming on to Discovery. But the thing that has me really excited about Sweeney coming on to Discovery is the 4400. Did you see the 4400?
No, you have asked me this before. I've not seen one moment of the 4400, but I'm going to. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that that's going to come up as homework at some point.
Well, yeah.
And,
I mean, at some point we could very well tackle it. I mean, we've already covered it on Commentary Trek Stars as part of our Ira Steven Behr series because he was the showrunner on it, and this is the thing which is really, I mean, it's a great show. It's a really great show. I highly recommend checking it out. But the thing which I find to be really interesting about this and what makes me really happy about, Sweeney coming on to Discovery is that Sweeney was Ira Steven Behr's writing partner on 4400 in a similar way that Robert Hewitt Wolf was Behr's partner on Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
And if you look at, I don't know what their relationship was like or whatever, but the way that Robert Hewitt Wolf describes their partnership on Deep Space Nine, it really sounds like Behr had just an easier time writing with a partner, and he would pick like a junior writer to work with him in the room. And Wolf talks about how that was like a huge learning experience for him, and something that, junior writers don't usually get to do, where it's like you're working with the boss on a daily basis,
Yeah.
You're basically getting to see the boss's process on a daily basis, And I would assume that that's what, Sweeney and Behr did on 4400, but the two of them together co-wrote 12 episodes of that show. 12 out of 43 episodes, over a quarter of the series, was co-written by Behr and Sweeney. So, I mean, and Sweeney wrote some episodes on his own, and so did Behr and everything. Right. It really seems to me like Sweeney was learning from the best. You know what I mean? And learning from the best of Star Trek. So, for him to be able to now come on. I mean, even though he has never written an episode of Star Trek, you look at the shows that he worked on, 4400, which was created by Renee Echevarria, run by Ira Steven Behr, and Wolf worked on that too. Then he worked on Medium, which was, I think, run by Renee Echevarria. If I'm not mistaken, I don't understand how any of this stuff works, but like...
And Medium was the Patricia Arquette show, right?
Yeah. Have you seen that?
One episode.
Okay, I watched like the first season, and I thought it was really good. And I don't understand, like, Echevarria created 4400 and then left to run Medium, which he did not create, and then Behr ran for... I don't understand how TV works. It doesn't make any sense to me. but
No,
whatever.
yeah, the process there is very bizarre, especially if you're used to looking at things through a film lens.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
whatever. And then he worked on Doctor Vegas, which you remember that show?
I have no recollection of Doctor Vegas, and if anybody out there in the audience is having the same reaction I am, what the hell is Doctor Vegas about?
It was a show which was on for about 3 weeks, and it starred Rob Lowe, and it was created by John Hertzfeld, the guy who directed 2 Days in the Valley, which I love.
Really?
That movie's
Wow.
awesome. I love that movie so
No
much.
kidding.
And amongst other people like Craig Sweeney, one of the writers was Ira Stephen Bear. So of course I'm like, oh, I'm there. And basically Rob Lowe is like a top doctor who basically is like, I'm not gonna work in a hospital, that would be crazy. I'm going to go to Vegas and become the in-house doctor at this hoity-toity casino hotel thing and basically just hobnob with rich people and gamble. And I mean, think about it like this. If Tony Stark was a doctor and decided to basically live at a casino, that's
That's all
basically
well
it.
and good.
It was fun. It was a fun show. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked
I
it.
don't know how I feel about that one. I really don't.
It was fun. But anyway, he worked on that, and then Elementary, created by Robert Doherty, who came from Voyager, and also Robert Hewitt Wolf works on that show. So even though he hasn't worked on a Star Trek show up until this point, he's worked with pretty much every Star Trek writer in history. I mean, even on Limitless, you got Kurtzman and Orci producing. So he's part of the extended family in a lot of ways, and
Yeah, okay.
and it seems like he's learned from a lot of them. He's worked under a lot of them, and now it's his turn. And I don't know, that to me is really exciting. Not to mention the fact that I've liked pretty much everything I've seen of his, especially 4400. That show is so badass, So yes, very, very, very exciting to me anyway that Sweeney is working on this thing.
Yeah,
So,
no, that sounds like good news. It's I mean, in a sense, it almost seems like they have, like they're getting more in house. I guess with like CBS is closing ranks a little bit. I guess
I think maybe what's happening, obviously Fuller, being the showrunner, probably brought on all of the people who he, trusted and stuff, all the people who
Right.
he's worked with before. He had a relationship with, even like Kirsten Beyer, and it's like, okay, Nicholas Meyer, if you can get Nicholas Meyer to write Star Trek, you get Nicholas Meyer to write Star Trek.
Right,
But
right,
all
right.
the other people are people who he had worked with before. And if you look at the people who are coming in now, it's either people who have had relationships with Kurtzman or people who have had relationships with Berg and Harberts.
Yeah.
The other people who I can't confirm are working on the show all worked with Berg and Harberts on other shows.
Well,
So-
then that would make sense that they're. I mean, it does. When I was saying this to you, offline, where it seems almost like a regime change is happening
Yeah,
with everything,
yeah.
which isn't necessary. I mean, because well, it was Meyer that said, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We'll find out. Like it really does seem,
Yeah.
in a sense, almost as though like Fuller had brought everybody on, and was in the initial concept, and they're pitching everything, and CBS is like, yeah, this is great. It really seems like they're hit a point where Fuller, was like, and then this happens, and CBS said, whoa, hey, whoa, okay, let's slow down here, and let's just sort of take a breath.
I mean, it only makes sense. Like if Berg and Harberts, even though they were part of the Fuller team, and obviously have worked with him on numerous occasions, to great effect. It makes sense that they're going to want to bring on people who they are comfortable working with, right?
Right. Sure.
So, I mean, that's what they're doing, and that's cool. That's cool. I mean, it just seems like, this writer's room seems to be getting really freaking crowded now, that there are now more writers than there are episodes of the show. So,
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's almost like Rogue One, where they wrote it and now they're going back and they're saying, you know what, we couldn't quite solve this problem, so you guys come in and you solve that problem for us.
Right. I think that's probably true, and I think that some people have probably left, and who knows, but whatever.
We'll find out someday.
That's what it is. We'll find out someday. It'll make a great sequel to Altman and Gross's 50-year mission.
Yeah, very true. Very true. If everything flames out, we're going to find out quickly. If everything's a success, it'll be a few years.
Yep. All right. So staying on the disco path, there was an IATSE document or whatever, something off of their website or whatever, which was revealed earlier this week. Aaron Harvey put it up on the Babel conference. That's where I saw it, and everyone who's picked up on it has really made a big deal out of the fact that the show starts shooting on January 24th, which I believe is Monday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Okay. So the show starts shooting on Tuesday. And that's the story that people are running with. There's a little screen cap or whatever, and that's the story that people are running with. And while I'm very excited that there is going to be new Star Trek being, filmed or taped on Tuesday, and as much as I get excited about work schedules and whatnot, to me the big story from that little screen cap is the fact that the directors of photography for the series were revealed, and it's a pretty freaking big reveal if you ask me.
Yeah, it's that is a big one to find out.
The two cinematographers listed for Star Trek Discovery are Guillermo Navarro,
yes,
and Colin Holt. Now, okay, speculating here, but based on how things work, one could assume that Guillermo Navarro is shooting the pilot, and then Colin Holt will be the cinematographer for the remainder of the series. That would be my guess, considering Guillermo Navarro's stature and Colin Holt's filmography, right?
And the fact that they've both worked with Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
One on films and one on television.
Yes. So let's break this down for people who may not know. Guillermo Navarro is huge. He's like A-list cinematographer, okay? Not just, whatever on television, not just anything. Like, this guy is A-list cinematographer without a doubt, okay? He has worked with, as you say, Guillermo del Toro, having shot movies such as Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, and Pacific Rim, amongst others. He has worked with Robert Rodriguez. He was Rodriguez's cinematographer before Rodriguez started shooting his own movies, having worked with him on everything from Desperado on up. He worked with him on Desperado, Spy Kids, and From Dusk Till Dawn. Not the TV show From Dusk Till Dawn, the original masterpiece. Maybe the best.
That's always where we go right off the rails right there. So you're throwing in the word masterpiece right there. That's just
from I have been in the past, especially been criticized or made fun of for using that term a little too loosely. But
no, I'm not. I'm not criticizing you for using the term. I'm criticizing you for applying it to From Dusk Till Dawn.
Like
I'm just throwing that out there.
From Dusk Till Dawn, honestly, that's like top 10 of all time for me.
You know what? You do you, man. You do you.
Okay. And he's also worked with Quentin Tarantino. He shot Jackie Brown,
which is phenomenal.
It is phenomenal.
Yes. Jackie Brown is the overlooked Tarantino gem.
Masterpiece. I'll call that a masterpiece too.
I won't disagree with you.
Okay.
I won't disagree with you. I remember that coming out in theater. I remember seeing that in theaters and people being lukewarm on it. I was like, what's wrong with you people? What's going on?
Yeah.
What planet am I living on where you don't love this movie as much as I do? So
it's one which definitely, like, you see it and you're like, I mean, I think when I saw it coming off of like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and the fact that it had been 3 years, and the fact that this was the first Tarantino movie since I became a Tarantino fan,
Yeah.
the anticipation for this movie was unmatched, right? I mean, there's nothing that came close to that, aside from Titanic, which was actually, like the week before, but whatever. It was the anticipation was incredibly high,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it came out, and I was like, oh, that's not as good as Pulp Fiction. And it's like, oh, sorry, Tarantino, sorry, you didn't make one of the best movies ever made again.
I will say that there's another film of his that I think would surprise everybody that I have seen, that I saw in the theater, no less. And that would be 2011's little gem, The Twilight Saga: Breaking Dawn Part 1. I actually saw that in the movie theater with my beloved wife, because she was a Twilight fan, and it was, we were on a trip, and I said, you know what, hon, very rarely, like, I usually dig in my heels about what we're going to go see. I know you want to see the Twilight movie. I know you want to go see it. And I will say that I did watch the whole thing, and I will say that it's awful. It's terrible. It didn't look bad. It looked okay.
Yeah.
But that movie is terrible. I just want to say that as much as we have a penchant for going after people's works that are outside of Star Trek and everything, I am not revisiting that one.
Fair
I'm
enough.
planting my flag right there. We're not going back.
Well, how about Part 2 then?
Well, I'd be a fool not to complete the saga. I mean, honestly.
Well, that's actually kind of funny, because like I, as a projectionist, I had to watch the Twilight movies, right? I saw all of them and got paid for them, by the way, and felt ripped off by them still. But I watched, all of them and Part 1 of Breaking Dawn, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then Breaking Dawn Part 2 came out, and it was like one of those things where I could have watched it, but I didn't have to watch it. And I was like, do I watch it just to say that I've seen them all, just to finish out the saga, which I've been living with for the past X amount of years? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. So I've literally seen all the Twilight movies except for the last half of the last book, and I'm okay with that. But then people start talking about it. They're like, it gets crazy in the middle, and they start describing it to me, and I'm like, I kind of want to see that. Like, that sounds crazy. I'm into that.
There's a whole other thing. We could do a whole couple of episodes about the fact that I fell for the trap of how can you judge the books if you haven't read them. And then the only one of these movies that I saw was Breaking Dawn Part 1. And, man, that was a rough time in my life, Mike. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do?
But the thing is, we've talked about this with editors and everything, right? Where there's still, like, even with a bad movie, there's still somebody on that crew. If not everybody. He's a great cinematographer. He really is. He is top notch. So they obviously spared no expense, and they were like, come on, do this for us. And he said, okay, sure. I'll make it look good at least. And it's like, it did. It looked good. There was, it's not like I sat in the movie and I was like, well, I can't see what's going on, or I thought that the shot was lit poorly. It was just that the movie was bad, but I think that really speaks to the fact that there are still artists. There are still people of great talent working on these things, even when you don't like the final product.
Well,
and
that movie was directed by an Oscar winner, I mean, Bill Condon, he's a pretty solid. He made Gods and Monsters, which is very good, about James Whale, and he also did Kinsey, which is a really good movie.
Oh, Kinsey is a good movie. Yeah, that is a good movie.
So yes, Navarro. I mean, very very well established in the world of cinematography and everything. And he hasn't. I think the only TV pilot which he shot was Mockingbird Lane. The Brian Fuller.
That's
thing.
right. Yeah.
But it seems like the thing which he's getting into now, pretty hardcore, is directing television. And he's worked on a number of really high-profile shows, including Hannibal and Limitless and Sleepy Hollow, which is another Kurtzman production, Preacher, Luke Cage, and American Gods, the new Brian Fuller show. So
There you go.
it would not surprise me at all if he's like, okay, I'm shooting this pilot for you, and I want to direct an episode or two of this show. You know?
Yeah. No, that would make sense. That would make sense. Because the thing is, looking through his curriculum vitae here, he even did. He's obviously comfortable with visual effects. I mean, you know, you have Hellboy and everything, but apparently he worked on Spawn.
Yeah, he shot Spawn, right? That's cool.
And that's you know, and Zathura, a space adventure, which is a Jon Favreau movie.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
and yeah, the Night at the Museum movies. He did a couple of those.
Yeah, so he's obviously comfortable with a fair amount of, you know, not just making makeup look good, but also CG work. So
yeah.
that's good. You know,
Pacific
maybe that
Rim,
means
I mean, hey, you know.
no, but I mean maybe that means that the pilot they know that they're going to have like you know the big splashy effects sequences, and they're like, well, let's get somebody in here. You know, that's not taking anything away from Holt because you know he works on The Strain, which is that's an effects intensive show. That is a majorly effects intensive show, and especially a makeup intensive show.
I mean, it's not at all unusual for them to bring in like a very well established cinematographer to shoot the pilot, just like with the director, you know, David Semmel, you know, coming in to direct, you know, the pilot, and then have that, you know, have them pass it off to someone else. Because I mean, you know, the thing is, it's like even if they wanted Navarro to shoot the whole show, and even if Navarro wanted to shoot the whole show, I'm guessing they could not afford that. You know what I mean?
I imagine his price tag's a little higher. Yeah, that would make sense.
But, you know, you bring in someone like Navarro to establish the look of the show, and then you hand it off to someone like Holt, who I'm guessing, you know, has a pretty good idea. It has a pretty similar style, or is capable of a similar style, seeing as how, you know, Del Toro, you know, worked with him on The Strain and all that stuff. And, you know, Holt has also worked on a number of other television shows, including Covert Affairs, Shadowhunters, which is that Mortal Instruments show or whatever it is,
Oh yeah.
and then Designated Survivor, which I really want to see. I mean,
That new Keanu Reeves one. I don't
Yeah.
even know what day that's on.
does anyone know what day any show is on? What are you, like 50?
I can honestly say that's the first time anybody's posed the question to me that way, and I can honestly answer no. No, I actually don't know what day anything is on.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
Wow. That's that's sobering to think like that. Okay. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yes, but he worked on that show too. So yeah, I mean, both of these people, you know, I'm very happy about. But I mean, you tell me Navarro is shooting the new Star Trek show, and I'm just like, what? Because he shot some of my favorite movies of all time.
I gotta say that his work on Pacific Rim is just absolutely delightfully good.
It is.
That movie looked so gorgeous. Well, anyway, yeah. I mean, Pacific Rim. The look of that film was just so slick and so wonderful that I am excited just on that front, because that is a big sci-fi, you know, mishmash of every type of, you know, visual effect you could possibly throw at it, and you know, to have him coming on, you know that even if you hate the pilot, it's going to look fantastic.
Yeah, and it's very different from like a lot of the other stuff that he shoots, and you know, I think probably that would be like most similar to Star Trek, right? But
Yes.
But the thing, I mean, like if you want to pick like one movie where I'm just like, oh my god, it has to be Desperado. You know, the photography in that is so
That
good.
was some pretty great photography. I agree with you on that. Absolutely.
But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. That to me is the news. Not that it's starting on January. They're starting to shoot on January 24th. It's who's going to be doing the shooting, and it's Guillermo Navarro. And oh my god,
Yeah.
I'm excited. What can I say?
You should be. Everybody should be.
So one last thing for today, Goliath. We have a correction to make, because you know,
Yeah, we
made
do.
an error.
We do.
Goliath. We talked briefly about the pilot a few weeks back, because David Semmel, was supposed to be directing that pilot. And it turns out that he did not direct the pilot. It was directed by Lawrence Trilling, who doesn't have anything to do with Star Trek, but is a very good director. He's worked on things like Alias and all that stuff. And I don't know, looking at like the cinematographer and stuff like that, it looks like Semmel was involved with the show and then left probably at the last minute, or close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think you'd be able to trust IMDb when it comes to credits for the, show on Amazon, which owns IMDb, that they're really pimping hard. Apparently not, and I remember you saying, like, I haven't watched the very end of it. And the credits, of course, were at the very end of it.
That's true. And
So-
I have watched the entire season now.
You've watched
So-
the entire season now?
Yeah, I no, not now, but like, yeah, I watched it all the way through. I was done with it very shortly after we talked about it.
Wow.
It's only 8 episodes long.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's really compelling,
Yeah.
really weird at certain point, like really bizarrely weird, like entering Lynchian territory. Not completely, but like sort of towing that line at certain points where there are certain jumps where a couple of episodes and you're taken off guard because you think, we went there. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I need to see it. I mean, regardless. I mean, David E. Kelly, he's so good, and whatever. So yeah, even though David Semmel didn't direct it, props to Lawrence Trilling, right? And
Oh, yeah.
hey, we'll always have the first season finale of Dawson's Creek, as a David Semmel.
As our gold standard.
I mean, I love that episode so much. I love it so much. We have to do a commentary on that episode someday. So
Someday.
yeah, just a little correction there. We apologize for the error, but whatever. Okay. Well, it's been fun talking about all of these new people who are working on Discovery today, but that's not all we're talking about on Trek FM this week. So here's a look at what you may have missed elsewhere on the network.
Previously on Trek.fm, Standard Orbit.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, yes, we know. But that's never mentioned in the episode at all. Like, you think there'd be some tag scene with everybody on the bridge and Kirk saying that to himself and Spock says, "Spice, Captain," or something like that, right?
I guess so.
Earl Grey.
And then as kind of a teenager, I kind of drifted a bit from Star Trek, and I pretended one time when I went to see Star Trek Nemesis that I was actually off to see Elf instead because that sounded cooler than seeing Star Trek Nemesis. And maybe it still is.
To the journey!
See, now I'm picturing like old 7 of 9 at the end of Titanic. She's got the doctor's medical tricorder in her hand, and she lovingly tosses it over the side of the ship at the end of the episode.
No, she has the mobile emitter. The mobile
yeah, she takes the
emitter.
doctor's mobile emitter
Yes.
and throws it overboard.
Perfect. I love this.
The 602 Club.
I thought it was a great story about, perseverance and the courage to act even when you don't know how the outcome's going to come.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out these shows and discover what we're talking about in your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an Apple user, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That helps us out greatly and makes it easier for other listeners to find the show as they search iTunes. If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our show on Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, and of course you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website and grab the RSS link as well. We'd like to thank our associate producers, Jeff Sutter, Chris Steftenagel, and Norman C. Lau. If you would like to be like Jeff, Chris, and Norm, head on over to patreon.com/trekfm and become a patron of the network. If you go to patreon.com/trekfm, that's patreon.com/trekfm, you'll find our current goals and different milestone contribution levels, along with all the great perks we have for you, including early access to content, exclusive content, producer credits, seats on our content development team, and more. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the information at patreon.com/trekfm. And Brandon has kind of taken over Patreon, and he's really made an effort to get a lot more exclusive content and early content up for our patrons. So props to Brandon, and head on over there and check it out. All right. If you want to contact us, you can find us on Twitter at TrekFM, or you can find us on Facebook.com/TrekFM. Facebook is also where you'll find the Babel Conference. Just type the Babel Conference, that's BABEL, into the search field, and we'll pop right up. John, where can people find you on the internet?
Look for me as Kessel Junkie on your social network of choice. Then you can also look for me over on the Nerd Party Network, co-hosting Aggressive Negotiations with Matt Rushing. I am co-hosting Great Shot Kid about Star Wars creators with you, Mike. And I am also co-hosting Words with Nerds with my pal Craig. So why don't you tell people where they can discover you online, Mike?
You can find me over on the Nerd Party doing Great Shot Kid with you, where we talk about Star Wars creators. And you can also find me on commentarytrackstars.com, where we do audio commentaries and various other things. And you can also find me on Twitter at Mumbles3K. All right, well, that's it for today. Next week, we are going to be talking about a classic television show from the early aughts, which was created by J.J. Abrams and worked on by a number of Star Trek people, both past, present, and future, maybe. And that show, and Lawrence Trilling, by the way, and that show is Alias, specifically The Box.